Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, one and all. It gives me absolutely great pleasure to warmly welcome you all to this live and hopefully lively discussion as part of the Generation Equality Forum and to commemorate the 20th anniversary of UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. This event will serve to introduce the first set of board members and catalytic members since the announcement in July that the Generation Equality Forum would develop a compact on women, peace, and security and humanitarian action as one of its outcomes. I'm absolutely delighted to be with you all. My name is Sarah Hendricks. I join you from UN Women, where I serve as the Director of the Policy, Program, and Intergovernmental Division. And I will be your moderator for today. A couple of housekeeping points before we begin. You will note at the bottom of your screen that there is interpretation available in French, Spanish, and Arabic. Please utilize the tools at the bottom of your screen to turn on the interpretation. Let's get started. As you will hear, the compact is intended as a collective, as an inclusive and an intergenerational effort to take stock of existing commitments on women, peace, and security and humanitarian action, and also drive momentum for action and implementation of these commitments, while leveraging existing coordination mechanisms. So this event marks the culmination of many months of hard work by a task force that has been represented by the Generation Equality Forum Core Group, made up of UN Women, the governments of France, Mexico, the Civil Society Advisory Group, and the Beijing +25 Youth Task Force, with an aim to develop the broad outline of the Compact's vision and goals, and to establish the Compact's governance structure, with whom you're going to be introduced today. So to get us started, let's hear from a few people that have been part of this genesis, who will give us some opening comments as well as an overview of the rationale of the compact in the context of the 20th anniversary of 1325 and also of Beijing +25. So first up is our executive director, Phumzile Mlambo Nguka from UN Women. Edie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Sarah. Excellencies, colleagues, fellow feminists, young women, it's wonderful to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Resolution 1325 with you in this manner on this day when we take this important step. The COVID-19 pandemic, together with the worsening climate crisis, is increasing fragility and is casting a long shadow on the progress that we so aspire to. We also know that it is important that women's leadership, including that of young people, is felt and is present everywhere decisions are made. At this moment, both the women, peace and security and humanitarian agendas require a robust push for implementation, and we think this compact will contribute to that. Women are often first responders and primary caregivers, building trust and mediating conflict while ensuring the survival and recovery of themselves, their dependents, their community is also in play. As we see in the pandemic response, women are overrepresented in high-risk roles as frontline healthcare workers, as first responders, and service providers of essential services. But despite these critical contributions, women too often remain sidelined behind those holding the guns. Young women often face multiple barriers despite the vital perspective they bring to decision making. So I am very pleased to welcome the board and the catalytic members of this compact. It is only through concerted effort and those partnerships between member states, the UN, and civil society that we can achieve the results we so urgently desire. And one of the outcomes of generation equality is indeed this compact, which will also facilitate and draw strong attention to the peace, security, and humanitarian issues across the 6 Action Coalition. The Secretary General's report has outlined 5 goals for the next 10 years in order to move the needle on women, peace, and security, and harness the agenda's potential to mitigate multiple challenges. Number 1, it is about inclusion of women in all peace processes, not as an add-on, not as informal participants, but as full participants of peace processes. Secondly, to defend women's rights and do so unconditionally and stand also with women human rights defenders. Thirdly, to reverse the rising global military spending, which takes away the resources from the work that prevents the conflict in the first place. 4, donors must fund gender equality because that expenditure has been dwindling. We need to launch a data, that is number 5, goal number 5. We need to launch a data revolution that fills knowledge gaps and leads to rapid action. Similarly, the global community has made detailed and specific commitments to address humanitarian needs and promote the leadership of women and girls in crisis contexts. This includes the SG's Agenda for Humanity from the World Humanitarian Summit and the 2018 Global Compact on Refugees. So it is my hope that this compact will accelerate momentum of all these goals and commitments that promote accountability and leadership at all levels. Thank you to the board and catalytic members for stepping up and accepting this challenge. I'd also like to thank Mexico and France for accompanying us in this journey, as well as civil society for their leadership. Let us start this work and make sure that we'll fulfill the mandate of advancing the agenda for women, peace, security, humanitarian, but also the nexus between development and peace, security, humanitarian. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Executive Director, for your opening words. And now I'd like to give the floor for some opening comments to Her Excellency, Ms. Martha Delgado, who is the Undersecretary for Multilateral Affairs and Human Rights of the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Madame Delgado, you have the floor.
Sarah, thank you very much. Thank you all from Mexico City. Dear Pumsile Mlambo, Yuka, Executive Director of UN Women, dear colleagues of the core groups and fellow participants. It is a pleasure for me to address this event on the launch of the leadership of the Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action Compact of the Generation Equality Forum that will be held next year. We are very committed with the success of this initiative convened by UN Women and co-chaired by Mexico and France. We recognize the leadership undertaken by the civil society organizations intending to accelerate the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action to achieve gender equality at the global level. Women in armed conflicts is one of the 12 areas of concern of the Beijing Platform action. So 5 years later, the Security Council adopted the landmark resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. And as a non-permanent member of the Security Council from next year, and the framework of its feminist foreign policy, Mexico is fully committed with this agenda. Therefore, we are launching our first national plan on women, peace, and security. At the same time, we are very, very engaged with the inclusion of this theme in the Generation Equality Forum. The forum will be an excellent opportunity to boost the compact in order to push efforts to have a real impact in the life of millions of women and girls victims of armed conflicts and violence. The compact should contribute to the mobilization of resources, cooperation, and accountability with different actors from the local, national, regional, and global levels to reduce the gap between the aspirations and concrete actions on the women, peace and security and humanitarian action agenda. The disproportionate impact of the pandemic of COVID-19 on millions of women and girls in conflict situations require to redouble efforts to address this relevant agenda. So in line with the principle of the forum, the compact will be very important to build in the most multi-stakeholder format with a special focus on youth movements and leadership. I am sure that with this energy, taking it into account the great momentum that we have with the women agenda around the world and the leadership of the board and catalytic members of the compact, we will be able to deliver a useful instrument that contributes to transformative changes that we need to build to be back in a better shape, not just in the health matter, but also economically and socially speaking. And we will welcome you next March in the forum in Mexico to continue the efforts of action building and commitment fulfillment by taking advantage of the comprehensive institutional framework already in place. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you indeed so much to you, Madame Delgado, for your opening remarks for Mexico's full commitment and support to the compact as part of the Generation Equality Forum, and for your emphasis on the importance of this as a multi-stakeholder format, including youth peace builders and youth movements. And now for the final comments in this opening segment, go to Her Excellency Ms. Delphine O, Ambassador and General Secretary of the Generation Equality Forum of the French Ministry of European and Foreign Affairs. Over to you, Ms. O.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and a very warm hello and welcome to all of the many, I think over 200 participants that we're enjoying so far for this event. I'm delighted to greet everyone on behalf of the government of France and of the core group of the Generation Equality Forum. We're also delighted to be launching this event at a very propitious time. Obviously, we're all celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Resolution 1325, but we're also hearing a lot of data coming up about the still relevant absence of women of negotiating tables. Looking specifically at some of the newest data that came out of the Center for Foreign Relations in New York that stated that in 7 out of 10 peace processes, there were no women, 0 women at the negotiating table. And as you might know, the French government has been deeply invested and involved in the women, peace and security movement and its activities. It's actually going to be launching its 3rd National Action Plan, 1325, before the end of the year. And France, as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, is on a very obstinate basis, constantly defending women, peace and security language. But I'm here to talk to you about, of course, the Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action, and also its linkage to the action coalitions, because you might be aware of one of the cornerstones of the Generation Equality Forum, which are the action coalitions. And now we're launching, and we're very happy to be launching this Compact on Women, Peace and Security. I would say, if I'm allowed, that the action coalitions and the Compact are similar in spirit and in goals, but they're different in shape. And when I say they're similar in spirit and goals, they're similar in spirit because everything we do in the Generation Equality Forum is meant to be inclusive, intergenerational, intersectional, and multi-stakeholder. And this is being reflected in the very structure of the Compact, with the board members and the catalytic members representing different categories of organizations: governments, international organizations, civil society organizations, youth organizations, private sector, and so on and so on. It is, as President Macron uses to say, multilateralism by the deeds and not just by the words. It's also similar in the goals, because what we're aiming to achieve is obviously to really make progress for gender equality, concrete progress, but also to have an accountable framework, one that we can be, as the Generation Equality Forum organizers, be held accountable in the next coming years, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10 years. But it's also different in shape from the action coalitions. And the reason for that is that with the Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action, we don't mean to be creating a new mechanism. We actually recognize there are many, many, many mechanisms, projects, programs for women, peace and security today. The objective really of the Compact is to create a platform that will itself in turn create synergies that would catalyze commitments, including financial commitments, political commitments, economic commitments, to sort of re-give a new momentum to the women, peace and security agenda that we know is also under attack by some conservative forces around the world. So this is really the rationale for the Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action. We're very glad to be passing the baton to the board members and catalytic members, and very glad to be hearing from them today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Delphine, for your opening comments, and indeed for reminding us of that common ambition of the Compact as an intergenerational, intersectional, and multi-stakeholder effort, similar to the action coalitions, but also of the difference, the ways in which it will leverage existing accountability constructs and mechanisms and seek to catalyze concrete progress on women, peace and security and humanitarian action. And now we'd love to turn at this moment to the introduction to the board. And to do so, we're going to do that through a two-part panel discussion. First of all, the Compact represents an opportunity for concrete action in the next 5 years to promote and protect women's human rights and the work of women peace builders and women human rights defenders, as well as to ensure women's leadership in all peace and humanitarian decision-making processes. Building on existing policy commitments and international agreements, the Compact will endeavor to catalyze action at global, regional, national, and importantly, local level to facilitate the leadership and improve the outcomes for women and girls caught in conflict and crisis contexts. Central to the development and the operationalization of the Compact will be the board, comprised of member states, regional or multilateral organizations, UN agencies, civil society organizations, academic and research institutions, private sector entities that also include women-led social enterprises. The board, with its support of catalytic members and the Compact Task Force, will be responsible for the development, the promotion, and the implementation of the Compact. So to date, we have 9 members of the board who I will introduce you to shortly. And as we engage in a conversation, we'll hear more about their ambitions and their vision for the Compact. There will, however, be a second round of board selections, which will include regional organizations, organizations focused on young women's leadership, academia, and the private sector. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the first half of the board as we inquire from them their aspirations for the compact. So first is from Sierra Leone, Her Excellency, Madame Manti Tarawali, who is the Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs. As we know, Sierra Leone has recently passed its National Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Policy, as well as its second generation National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. You are very welcome to this conversation, Madame Tarawali. Joining you. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
Joining you will be Ms. Mavik Cabrera Baleza, who is the founder and the CEO of the Global Network of Women Peace Builders, representing over 100 civil society groups from countries impacted by crises and conflict. Otherwise known as GNWP, the Global Network of Women Peace Builders is an incredibly strong advocate for greater inclusivity of women, peace and security, of youth, peace and security, and of humanitarian action. Mavik, you are very welcome to this conversation. And in addition, we have together with us today, Norway's Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Odd Inge Kvalheim. Norway, as you know, has many years of admirable experience as a facilitator to peace processes and early dialogue initiatives to ensure the integration of women's rights. You are very welcome to this conversation. And finally, we have to this first panel joining us, Ms. Hibak Osman, founder and CEO of Karama. Karama is dedicated to ending violence against women and also to women and girls' participation in decision-making. And so Karama's network represents activists and women's groups from 13 countries in the Middle East and in Africa. And so to all four of you, you are very welcome to this panel. And we are so excited about your role on the board of the Compact. And we'd love to hear from each of you in turn about what your broad aspirations are for the Compact and what your perspective is around the capabilities and partnerships that will be needed to ensure the Compact's success. To kick things off, I'd love to invite you, Madame Tarawali, to share your point of view. Madame Tarawali, you have the floor.
Thank you, Sarah. Protocols. I bring you greetings from His Excellency, the President, Brigadier Retired Julius Maada Bio, the government and people of Sierra Leone. I'm extremely delighted to join this virtual high-level event to mark the commencement of the Compact process. I thank UN Women for the invite and the Generation Equality Forum core group members for acknowledging the need to establish a standalone compact on women, peace and security and humanitarian action. It will be a failing of the co-lead action coalition for selecting my country to serve as a member on the board of this unique compact. I avail myself to this opportunity and formally accept the offer on behalf of my country. We are eternally grateful. Madam Chair, Sierra Leone believes the decision to create the compact was a move in the right direction. The following reasons justify this assertion. The compact provides a holistic agenda for the women, peace and security agenda and the humanitarian component. It will galvanize transformative action by all relevant actors for full implementation. It provides intergenerational dialogue that will create a sense of national ownership. This was an experience derived from our first national action plan, which enjoyed an all-inclusive process by various stakeholders, including local district officials, civil society organizations, paramount chiefs, etc. It creates a platform that brings together diverse global, regional, national, and local women, young women peace builders, human rights defenders, and humanitarian actors. It will enhance coordination for the implementation of existing commitments. We believe it has the capacity to ensure the commitments on paper are translated into practice. And finally, since financing the Women, Peace and Security agenda has been a major challenge, we believe that this platform has the opportunity to mobilize financing from the donor community, encourage national governments to allocate budgets for implementation of national action plans and humanitarian action. On the question of what capabilities and partnerships will be needed vis-a-vis our contribution towards the success of this compact, let me highlight a few. We intend to bring our experiences and lessons from the 11-year senseless war, the Ebola, and now COVID-19 to support the work of the compact. We'll encourage other UN member states to adopt the national action plans that are fully costed using gender-responsive budgeting principles. This, in our view, will not only ensure realistic budgeting, but enable them to raise all the funds needed for effective implementation. We will further encourage governments to allocate specific funds from national budgets to the advancement of women, peace and security agenda. We'll promote awareness raising on the African continent on the connection between women, peace and security and humanitarian action frameworks and the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. This underscores the relevance of the recently adopted Continental Results Framework, which is an African Union tool to monitor implementation on the frameworks by its member states. We will develop and strengthen partnership with civil society, various government ministries. In short, we will adopt a whole nation approach. And lastly, but not the least, we will mobilize other stakeholders to become signatories of the compact. We commit to ensuring our representation at the Generation Equality Forum in Paris next year at the highest political level. Let me conclude by reiterating our unflinching commitment to ensuring the translation of every existing normative framework on women, peace and security and humanitarian action into concrete actions that will positively impact the lives of women and girls in conflict and fragile settings. I thank you for listening.
And our thanks to you, Your Excellency, Madame Tarawali, for expressing and communicating the government of Sierra Leone's unwavering commitment and leadership to this compact as a catalytic tool for driving effective change. We are so excited to have you as part of this board. And now I'd love to turn to Ms. Mavic Cabrera from the Global Network of Women Peace Builders to share your perspective and broad aspirations for the compact, as well as your ideas for capabilities and partnerships that are needed to ensure its success. Over to you, Mavic.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Greetings, USG and Executive Director Fonzile Mlambo and Luca, Undersecretary Martha Delgado of Mexico, Ambassador and General Secretary of the Generation Equality Forum, Delphine O from France, fellow board members, catalytic members, all esteemed guests, friends, and very especially colleagues in civil society. I am very honored to represent the Global Network of Women Peace Builders and the more than 100 women's rights groups and civil society organizations in the Beijing +25 Civil Society Coalition on Women, Peace and Security and Youth Peace and Security on the board of the Generation Equality Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action. This is a great honor and also a big responsibility. Civil society have many aspirations for the compact, but let me zero in on what I consider the most important ones. First, the compact will guarantee the meaningful participation of local women, youth peace builders, and first responders in peace and political processes and humanitarian action, not in words, not through more global policies, but through concrete actions to ensure that women have the political and financial support they need, and that governments, donors, and other key actors are held to account for their commitment to meaningfully include women. I want to stress that this must include women and youth in all their diversity, including displaced persons, LGBTQIA+ people, indigenous women, religious minorities, and people with disabilities. We do not want consultations or advisory positions. We want decision-making power and influence. We also expect the compact to place specific emphasis on responding to priorities, challenges, and needs raised by young women peace builders. Second, the compact will make use of its combined resources, networks, and influence to ensure protection of women and youth peace builders and human rights defenders and first responders from backlash and reprisals as a result of their activism and advocacy. Third, the compact will be integrative, intersectional, and multidimensional. While our primary focus is women, peace and security and humanitarian action, we know climate change, attacks on sexual and reproductive health and rights, the skewed global economic order, and other important and seemingly remote issues impact our work. We need to have dialogues and strengthen our partnerships and solidarity with other movements for social transformation. And in doing so, recognize and enhance the diverse capabilities of women and youth peace builders and first responders. Fourth, the compact will be founded in human rights and feminist values. And as such, it will be bold, not only in calling out the over-militarized approaches to security, but also in changing political culture that will actually lead to reducing military spending and instead investing more in women and youth peace builders and first responders. 20 years after the adoption of Resolution 1325, there is a strong normative framework for the implementation of the Women, Peace and Security agenda. There is also no shortage of commitments and normative documents for a more gender-responsive humanitarian action. We do not need new documents that will not add any value. What is necessary now is concrete actions to encourage and put pressure on all actors to implement the existing commitments and clear mechanisms to hold them accountable. We know that this is the ambition of the Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action. The big question is, how can this be achieved? As so often, I believe women peace builders, especially those who live in local communities affected by conflict, have the answers. I look forward to working with the other board members to translate their expertise and access to resources into concrete actions. Thank you and a peaceful morning to all of us.
Thank you indeed to you, Mavic, and to the Global Network of Women Peace Builders. And certainly for reminding us not only about the responsibility of the compact and its opportunity, but of its boldness and the ways in which it must be founded in human rights and feminist principles. And now I'd like to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Odd Inge Kvalheim, the Norway's Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN. You have the floor.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. It's a great honor to be here among and taking part in this very important event with so many distinguished speakers, all protocol observed. I think I probably fall in the category that Fumicil, when she was giving her greetings initially, referred to as fellow feminists, and I will continue in that spirit. In so many meetings I've taken part in, I've seen only or almost exclusively men, and that's something I've reacted to. In this case, we're maybe tilting a bit in the other direction. This agenda is so important, it concerns everyone, and let's work together to increase the commitment and participation of men in furthering this agenda as well. We on the Norwegian side are certainly excited to get started on this compact. This year's report from the Secretary General on Women, Peace and Security demonstrates why it is needed. One data point spoke to me particularly, and this was also underlined by Ms. Delphine O, that peace agreements that include women's rights are up from 14 to 22% from 1995 to 2019. Definite progress, but far too slow and simply not good enough. Only 1 in 5 agreements include women's rights. At the UN, our stated commitments deepen every year, but the reality is that on the ground, women remain underrepresented in peace and security efforts. And I couldn't agree more with Mavic Balesa, who was the previous speaker, who made this point very eloquently. Women's rights, priorities, and needs are not systematically reflected. Women peace builders and human rights defenders are underfunded, stigmatized, and increasingly exposed to threats. After 20 years of Security Council Resolution 1325, we know why this has to be rectified. Our continuing failure to deliver on our promises not only affects the rights of women, it puts at jeopardy our peacemaking efforts as well. This compact is about turning commitments into practical results for those affected by conflict, building on knowledge and experience, translating plans into action. This has been the main focus for Norway in the past few years, ensuring that we not only have policies and plans in place, but also guidelines, checklists, and procedures that enable follow-up, and that we learn from one process to the next. We need to know not only what to do, but also how to do it. We've also strengthened monitoring and accountability structures, including in all relevant budget lines and in all bilateral development assistance to countries affected by conflict, ensuring that our partnership benefits girls and women as well as boys and men. We all need to be more concrete and practical if we are to move forward. We, the member states, the UN, and regional organizations. And we must partner with civil society and academia. They keep us grounded and build the basis for informed decisions. As we, Norway, take our seat in the UN Security Council and on this board, it will remain a top priority for Norway that women, peace, and security becomes operational in such a way that is felt at the country level. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your commitment, for the government of Norway's energy to turn commitments into practical results, and for your enduring and continued support to the Women, Peace, and Security agenda. We are so glad to have you as part of this board. And now I'd like to turn to Ms. Hibak Osman, the founder and CEO of Karama, to share with us your perspective on the broad aspirations for the compact and the capabilities and partnerships that you feel are needed. Over to you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be representing the Karama Women's Movement on the board today. I think all the main points have already been discussed by all the prior speakers. So I would only add two brief points. First, on the lessons that have brought us here today, we have learned a lot from 2020, much more than we bargained for, but reflecting on Beijing plus 25, on 20 years of 1325, 10 years of UN Women, I think we can all say that we cannot blame the lack of progress for women and girls on a lack of agreements, commitments, or good intentions. So we are very pleased that the compact does not intend to reinvent the wheel. Some of us here today remember Beijing very well. We remember the energy and the optimism, most of which still remains, of course. Even without the planned discussion at CSW this year, we have still been able to share the lessons of what has worked and what hasn't over the last 25 years. All that experience from those of us who were there to the activists who had not even been born then needs to inform our work now. We might regret that more of the commitments that governments have made over the years had been met, but khalas, let's use what we have learned to get moving. And on that note, I would note that it's especially important that the compact is expressingly focused on financing, monitoring, and accountability. The importance of this has been a lesson we have learned again and again. Second, my second point is I want to emphasize the importance of localization. It's great that the board represents such an extensive and international spectrum of actors. It is an important achievement that we have governments, civil society, academia, and hopefully the private sector working constructively together. But that is not enough. If we are to succeed in our work, we have to make it relevant and bring in those beyond this circle. Localization and building the constituency are essential. We need to reach across generations, across nations, getting out of the cities and to everywhere affected. I am optimistic for this work because I know it's possible for the wider community to make these international frameworks relevant and a reality. Just last week, a coalition of more than 50 Yemeni NGOs published the first Shadow CEDAW report in 12 years. With everything that's going on in Yemen, these women were able to reach across the political, graphical, ethnic, and so many divides to make this international process a community agenda. That should be a lesson and an inspiration for all of us. So in summary, we need to build on what has worked, and we have to make it relevant through participation and localization. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed very much, Madame Osman, for your important remarks, for drawing our attention on the importance of building on existing policy commitments and agreements, and on the importance of localization. I think this sets the ambition very clearly before us. And it now gives me great pleasure to introduce an additional 3 members of the board of the Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action Compact, who will form a second panel in order to share their perspectives on the compact. First is the Feminist Humanitarian Network. The Feminist Humanitarian Network is a global collective of 48 women's organizations in the Global South, international organizations, and individuals. Its membership brings a hugely strong track record of leading humanitarian action, 70% of which plays leadership roles on the front line of crisis in the Global South. Representing the Feminist Humanitarian Network today will be Mimidou Achakpa, who is a member of the Feminist Humanitarian Network, as well as the National Coordinator of the Women in Humanitarian Response in Nigeria Initiative Network. And joining her is Dr. Anusanti Pile. Furthermore, it gives me pleasure to introduce an additional member of the Compact Board, and that is the government of the United Arab Emirates. Representing the government today will be Her Excellency, Ms. Lana Nusay Bai, who is the ambassador and permanent representative of the United Arab Emirates to the UN. And as we know, the UAE has provided support for women from developing countries to serve in peacekeeping operations and support for sexual and gender-based violence programming in conflict settings. You are very welcome here. And finally, the third member of the board is ACCORD, the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, ACCORD. ACCORD has over 2 decades worth of capacity building in conflict resolution, in negotiations, in mediation skills, and in engaging in dialogue for policy development. Together with partners such as the African Union, ACCORD is a founding member of the African Women Mediators Network, FemWise. And representing ACCORD today is Ms. Pravina Makanlaka, who is the advisor for Women, Peace and Security at ACCORD. You are all welcome. And we would love to hear from each of you in turn on the following question: how will you build support for the compact? And given your experience and context, what do you envision as the opportunities as well as the potential barriers for the compact's success? We welcome each of you to share your perspective on those questions in about 3 minutes. So starting with the Feminist Humanitarian Network, you have the floor.
Warm greetings from South Africa. This is Anu Pillay. Warm greetings to all esteemed speakers, guests, and attendees. Firstly, allow me to say how delighted we are to be a board member of the Compact, since the objectives of the Compact are so closely aligned with the vision of the Feminist Humanitarian Network. So I will speak about support to the Compact, and my colleague Mimidou will speak about opportunities and barriers. As a feminist working in the women, peace and security and humanitarian sector for many years, it gives me great pleasure to represent the Feminist Humanitarian Network today. As you mentioned, we are a collective of women's rights organizations in the Global South, international NGOs and individuals working together to transform the humanitarian system into one that is guided by feminist principles. We are a growing network covering the Pacific, Bangladesh, Nepal, Lebanon, Palestine, South Africa, Nigeria, Liberia, and Kenya at this time. The network is unanimous in being deeply invested in ensuring that the Compact fulfills its role to ensure that the women's rights organizations and women on the front lines of humanitarian action are included in decision-making, and that humanitarian action does not remain the orphan pillar and is fully integrated into all efforts to promote women's leadership, secure active participation, and promote the full protection of women's rights in women, peace and security and humanitarian action. So in our work alongside peers and allies at country level and globally, we see the Compact as an important platform to promote feminist principles and to challenge patriarchal and colonial practices. Also to ensure that women peace builders and crisis-affected women have full and meaningful participation in decision-making. So we will distribute information on the Compact and its work in our communications. We will include the Compact's progress as an agenda item in our network, and will ensure it is recognized by those with whom we work in partnership. I'll hand over to Mimidu to speak about opportunities and barriers.
Thank you, and over to you, Mimidu.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I bring you greetings from Abuja, the beautiful city of Abuja, Nigeria. Let me join my sister, the previous speaker, Dr. Anusan Tepile, to say how delighted we are to be a board member of the Compact, since its objectives are so closely aligned with the vision of the Feminist Humanitarian Network. As a feminist women, peace and security and humanitarian specialist for many years, it gives me great pleasure to present the Feminist Humanitarian Network today. Like the previous speaker had said, we're a growing collective of women's rights organizations with 48 members in the Global South, working together to transform the humanitarian system into one that is guided by feminist principles. Many of our members play or have played a key role in women, peace and security initiatives, or have been drivers in establishing the existing frameworks that anchor the women, peace and security agenda, including the Beijing Platform for Action, and have campaigned for international processes that are inclusive of and moreover led by crisis-affected women and women peace builders for decades. We are therefore heavily invested in progress that is made on this front, and in the role of the Compact can play in this regard. Now, the barriers for the Compact's success are also its opportunities. We want to ensure that diverse women are represented in an intersectional approach taken to women, peace and security and humanitarian agenda processes, and believe the Compact can ensure this as women face different challenges based on who they are, and our decision-making must reflect this. It can only be so if diverse women are represented. The Compact presents an opportunity for women and the power of women working together to be recognized, and for the voices of many women to be heard, though the fact that women work as collectives is too often overlooked and women are individualized. This could present a barrier if we are not purposeful in our approach from the onset. It is critical that the Compact ensures that it works to realize women, peace and security and humanitarian action commitments is fully accessible to women's rights organizations and diverse women around the world, therefore ensuring full accountability and transparency. This must be done through communications and strategic information distribution that takes into account diverse audiences. Finally, the Compact is an opportunity to meaningfully shift power to local women's rights organizations. in a real way that ensures the meaningful participation of local and national women organizations in decision-making and designing and implementing work in this sector. However, women's organizations are often not meaningfully included in processes, and international commitments often do not specifically include them, and they are not upheld. The compact must ensure action on international commitments, such as those made under the Grand Bargain, that go some way to addressing this by ensuring local organizations have access to funding. Women's organizations must have direct access to funding, which is critical in shifting power to them. Last but not the least, the barrier is that women's organizations are often involved tokenistically. They are not meaningfully included in processes, and international commitments often do not specifically include them, and they are not upheld. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you to you both indeed for representing today the Feminist Humanitarian Network, to you, Mimidu Achakpa, and also to Dr. Pillay. Thank you for highlighting the importance of shifting power to women's organizations and to the ways in which the Feminist Humanitarian Network will indeed build support for the compact, particularly in the space of humanitarian response. And now it gives me pleasure to provide the floor to the UAE. And with my apologies, the UAE will be represented by Her Excellency, Ms. Ghassak Shaheen, who is the Deputy Permanent Representative of the United Arab Emirates to the UN. You have the floor.
Thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to say that the UAE is very honored to have been selected a board member of this significant compact. We are looking forward very much to collaborating on this together with our fellow members. As this year marks the anniversaries of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action and the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, member states and the UN are reflecting on the past and what has been done throughout the last 20 to 25 years to advance gender equality and the empowerment of women. And while everyone agrees that the progress has been made regarding the women, peace and security agenda, by now we have all come to the conclusion that more needs to be done still. This is exactly where this compact's main objective coincides with the UAE's approach to achieving the full, equal, and meaningful participation of women, ensuring words are put into action, amplifying the full and effective implementation of the WPS agenda in a promotion of gender equality in general. This will also remain a key priority for us during our recent announced candidacy for an elected seat on the Security Council. But the UAE also strongly believes that promoting this agenda needs to be expanded outside of the Security Council realm too. We have been working with UN Women on leveraging the Dubai Expo, one of the greatest platforms for public engagement in 2021 and 2022, on bringing new stakeholders into the WPS community. Because of the WPS agenda's multi-faceted approach, connecting the humanitarian, developing, and peace context, it is important to ensure strategies and actions in promoting women's engagement into those settings are coordinated by all relevant stakeholders. Only recently, the UAE finished a panel series with the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace and Security on the role of women in post-conflict reconstruction and peace building. As a result of that, we will shortly be launching a UN action plan with concrete priority actions and reforms for the UN agencies and member states to undertake. With this, the UAE hopes to contribute not only to delivering on commitments, but also to amplify concerted actions, as we believe bringing together all relevant stakeholders will enhance our unified goals of achieving true gender equality. This compact will also offer a great platform not only for more comprehensive monitoring of all the different efforts in advancing these significant topics, but also to better organize them. With that in mind, we also believe that any potential barriers that this compact might be faced with can be overcome if all of the different stakeholders within this catalyst for progress continue to communicate and listen to each other. We will all be
I think perhaps the screen may have frozen just as we were hearing the final words from Ms. Gasak Shaheen, the Deputy Permanent Representative of the UAE to the UN. But we want to thank you, Ms. Shaheen, for all of the words and indeed for the UAE's commitment to being part of the board. And with that, I'd like to turn now to ACCORD, the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes. And Ms. Pravina Makan-Laka, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Your Excellencies, and you are able to hear me clearly, Madam Chair?
Yes, we are just fine.
Thank you. Edie, Excellencies, distinguished guests, in the interest of time, allow me to stand on all protocols observed. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. On behalf of Dr. Vasu Gandhan, the Executive Director of ACCORD, I'm pleased to join you all this morning from South Africa at this high-level virtual launch of the Generation Equality Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action and share his message. ACCORD is honored to be appointed as a board member, and we join our fellow appointed board members in taking on this responsibility. Dr. Gandhan wanted me to read his message out, and I quote, "I would have wanted to join you personally, but the very aspirations for which the Generation Equality Global Compact has been established is the reason I cannot be with you this morning. I'm currently in Juba, South Sudan, participating as a facilitator in the continuing peace process. Over the past 20 plus years, we have seen so many cross-sectoral efforts to advance the women, peace and security agenda. Yet one huge gap of this agenda 20 years on, and particularly in Africa, is that we have failed to appoint women to lead high-level mediations like the one I am currently participating in. However, this global compact, which provides a platform to bring together various sectors of society for a concerted and collaborative effort to ensure that in less than a decade from now, and in a time when we will face many challenges to peace and security, we will be able to achieve gender parity in peace processes. I believe that the move by the WPS-HA Compact offers an incredible opportunity to really advocate, galvanize, and connect all efforts of all agenda. Is key in achieving progress to this agenda. It is my hope that the compact will be able to make strides on monitoring and to ensure that those involved in peace processes, including the UN, the AU, REX, and particularly men, do not oppose the participation of women as lead mediators in peace processes. As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the triggers and potential for violence and conflict. We have seen this particularly with its impact on women and girls. This reality further highlights the need for a coordinated and integrated approach of the women, peace and security and humanitarian action, of which we would be very proud to be a part of. For the past 28 years, we at ACCORD have been actively involved in the women, peace and security field. We have developed a rich understanding of the barriers women continue to face through research, through policy and practice and capacity building initiatives. And we make this available to the Compact. These activities have also allowed us to develop strong relationship with women peace builders across the continent, including and not limited to FemWise Africa and the Gender is My Agenda campaign. At this time, we are aware that the new challenges posed by the pandemic, as we have been monitoring these across Africa in the COVID-19 Conflict and Resilience Monitor that we publish weekly. I believe these positions the organization to a unique space and be able to provide information that reflects what's happening on the ground, so that together we can work towards actions that will be bettering the lives of those who work here every day. As we celebrate the 1325 20th anniversary, we take stock of our current situation and look ahead. Initiatives such as this one will play a key role, and so that we do not end up worse off, and that we are able to build back better and stronger. Allow me to express my sincere gratitude to Your Excellencies and the distinguished participants who have strengthened the Women, Peace and Security agenda through the 20 years of commitment, and to UN Women under the leadership of fellow South African sister, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, for her sterling leadership of UN Women, but importantly for the Generation Equality campaign. On behalf of the Chair of Accord, Madam Drassa Machel, and Accord, we are humbled by the decision to select Accord as a board member of the Generation Equality Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action, and we avail ourselves to serve. Unquote. I thank you very much for listening to this message from Dr. Bossegondon.
And indeed, thank you to you, Ms. Makanlaka, for sharing that message from Accord, and indeed for Accord's role on the Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action Compact Board. At this point, and acknowledging that we're running a little short of time, we would like to now turn to the catalytic members. The development and implementation of the compact will indeed be supported by a cadre of catalytic members who will support the board and lend their advocacy and political support to fulfill the objectives of the compact. They will provide thematic expertise as well as linkages to coordination processes that they are involved with, and ensure that the compact and its initiatives are inclusive to diverse groups and have broad geographic reach. To introduce the current catalytic member roster, I will now hand over to my wonderful colleague, Päivi Kanisto. Päivi, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And indeed, we are so proud to have catalytic members as part of a compact. And all selected catalytic members have a demonstrated record of commitments and continue to be at the forefront of women, peace and security and humanitarian actions. And it is my huge privilege, honor and pleasure to introduce you to the catalytic members of the compact, who we have also asked to share their hopes for the compact in writing. So you will see quotes from different compact members while I'm introduce just the country or organization and the person who is representing here this member in this meeting. So first, let me first mention Canada. Welcome. And we are very happy to have Ms. Quinn Kutz, the Director General of the Peace and Stabilization Operations Program. Estonia. Very pleased to welcome Her Excellency Ms. Minna-Liina Lind, Ambassador at Large for Human Rights. Finland, very happy we have here today Ms. Seija Kinni, Coordinator for Women, Peace and Security for UN and General Global Affairs, Finland. Spain, we have today here Her Excellency Ms. Clara Cabrera Bracero, Ambassador at Large for Gender Equality in Foreign Policy. Sweden, I'm very happy to welcome Swedish Ambassador for Sustainable Development, Charlotta Schlüter. Welcome. Palestine, we are pleased that we are joined here by Hanna Nakle, Minister Advisor at the Ministry of Women's Affairs of Palestine. UNHCR, I'm so happy we are here joined today by Scott Paul, Senior Policy Advisor from UNHCR New York office. Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund, and we are here joined by Head of a Secretariat and my colleague Rita El-Kiari. Welcome. Then we have GAPS, Gender Action for Peace and Security organization, and we are here joined today by Ms. Hannah Bond, Director for GAPS. Then we have GPAC, the Global Partnership for the Prevention of Armed Conflict, and we are joined here today by Ms. Maja Vitas Maestrovoc. Welcome. ICANN, and ICANN, the International Civil Society Action Network. We are here today welcoming Ms. Sanam Anderlini, founder and CEO of the International Civil Society Action Network. Very much welcome. WILF, as a Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And here we are welcoming today Ms. Sareen Hamid, Women, Peace and Security Program Manager at WILF. Then we have WIPIC, Women's International Peace Center, and very much welcoming Ms. Helen Kesien-Woha. Women, which is the Dutch Gender Platform, and we are welcoming here Ms. Anne-Floor Dekker, Program Manager, Gender, Peace and Security at Women Dutch Gender Platform. And then we have next Women's Refugee Commission, and we are welcoming today Ms. Joanne Timoney, Vice President, Advocacy and External Relations at the Refugee Commission, and Ms. Stephanie Johansson, Senior Advocacy Officer and UN Representative, also at WRC. So that brings it to the end of the list of the current catalytic members, and we are so proud to be able to working with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Päivi, and indeed such a warm welcome to all of the catalytic members. And really to provide us with some reflection and analysis from their unique perspectives, we are also fortunate to have with us today 3 additional important contributors. And I'd like to give you the floor to share your perspectives for 1 or 2 minutes. Starting with the Generation Equality Forum Multi-Stakeholder Steering Committee member, Her Excellency Ms. Maria Fernanda Espinosa Garces, the high-level Ecuadorian gender equality advocate. Madame Garces, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I think that I have to start thanking Mexico, France, and UN Women for honoring the commemoration of the 20 years of Security Council Resolution 1325. And I think this is a very powerful way to honor this resolution and the impact it has had. And I think that the best way to make the case for the critical role that women play in building peaceful, sustainable, and resilient societies is precisely by walking the talk, by addressing the implementation deficit of this agenda, by making sure that the Generation Equality Forum takes full account of the fundamental role of women and girls in preventing, building, and sustaining peace throughout the 6 action coalitions. So as Minister of Defense of my own country, I had the opportunity to witness firsthand, for example, the brave work of female military demining in our border with Peru, or the reluctance and later support from generals and high commanders when I passed the gender equality and non-discrimination policy for the armed forces of my country. And we know too well that the progress we have made in the past 20 years is not good enough. We still experience an implementation gap at the ground level, at the regulatory and budgetary levels. We have to remember that today only 41% of member states have adopted national action plans on women, peace and security, and just 22% of these action plans included a budget for an effective implementation thereof at the time of adoption. And we also know that today women make up only for 4.2% of military personnel in UN peacekeeping missions. And there are many, many numbers. I don't have the time to repeat them here now, but I think that there is no shortage of reasons for a forward-looking, action-oriented global compact on women, peace and security and humanitarian action. And I think it will have a much awaited place in harnessing existing commitments and supporting decision and policymakers to deliver and implement, to ensure that norms are translated into transformative action in order to overcome the implementation deficits. That's why I would like to really commend, the architects of the Generation Equality Forum, the myriad of activists, change makers, feminists, for this brilliant idea of designing a specific compact to leverage the agenda of women, peace and security, from a comprehensive intergenerational perspective, where women and girls have to be part and parcel, not only of peace processes, as peace builders, peacekeepers, in conflict situations, but also in the prevention agenda, in sustaining peace and in humanitarian decision making. So just to close today's conversation, was truly, the best tribute to one of the crowning achievements of global women's movement and one of the most salient decisions of the UN Security Council. Thank you very much for this, and you can count on me as a partner and as an advocate of this compact. Thank you, and back to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Madame. Your words were not only inspiring, but also drew our attention to the opportunity, the catalytic opportunity of this compact as we face some of the implementation deficits and seek to drive change into those. Madame Maria Fernanda Espinosa Garces, we appreciate and are so grateful for your partnership. And now I would like to give the floor for some pre-closing comments to Ms. Amani Aruri, the Generation Equality Youth Task Force member, who would like to share your perspective on the compact as well. Over to you.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much. It's such a great honor and privilege to be among you, and I hope that more youth-led organizations and representatives of youth movements will be joining the compact, reflecting their aspirations and priorities, and taking more active role in peace building processes. So 20 years after the adoption of 1325 Security Council resolution, but still women and girls in different parts of the world are living conflict and occupation, deprived from many of their basic human rights, lack safety, security, and peace, and are denied access to basic services and, more importantly, justice. Therefore, I don't consider this event as a celebration for the passage of 20 years since the resolution was adopted, but rather it is an alarming reminder to all duty bearers and stakeholders that they haven't done enough to achieve peace and security, and to ensure that power is transformed to put women in the heart of peace building process. So as a young Palestinian woman living under military occupation, like all young women, I am vulnerable to all kinds of violations. This oppression has deprived me of much of the safety and security conditions I need as a peace builder and activist who is striving to improve conditions for women in my country and region. I also live in patriarchal society and structure, which imposes another layer of difficulty for women to effectively participate in public life and decision-making, and also peace building. I know and I feel how important it is to ensure protection for women peace builders, especially young women. It is not only about participation, but also about what would women peace builders experience on the political, social, and economic levels as a result of their participation, given the intersectionality of gender, age, race, religion, culture, etc. representing Generation Equality Youth Task Force from different diversities today. We hope this diverse, inclusive global compact offers an opportunity for women, peace and security advocates and actors from different sectors to think more intergenerationally about activism, institutions, research and policy design, and to see real synergies between women, peace and security agenda and youth peace and security agenda that recognize for the first time since adoption that young people play an important and positive role in the maintenance and promotion of international peace and security. As Women, Peace and Security marks its 20th anniversary and Youth, Peace and Security its 5th, it's time to reflect on the alignment and complementarity of these two agendas to imagine how more inclusive spaces can be created to address forms of exclusion, violence, and conflict, and disproportionately affect both women and young people. It is important to think in intersectional terms about inclusion along both gender age lines to ensure a plurality of voices and viewpoints to strengthen responses to violence and insecurity. Many young people are actively working to build peace and respond to insecurity in their communities, countries, and regions, and their work must be recognized. We trust this compact will elevate the voices of unheard youth and women and show their crucial presence in crafting a better world for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amani, for your perspective, for highlighting the criticality of the synergistic opportunity between women, peace and security and youth, peace and security, and for bringing a message of the ways in which an inclusive space is so critical to the collective success of the compact overall. And now to close this part and before we finally close the event overall, I would like to share with you a video statement from Ms. Sharon Bagwan-Rolls, who is a Generation Equality Core Group member and a civil society advisory group representative. Over to Ms. Sharon for her video statement.
Greetings from the Fiji Islands. This year, we're aware of the need to address the peace and humanitarian nexus more than ever, as we face the realities of the climate crisis, recognize the vital need to enhance conflict prevention, and of course, deal with the impact of COVID-19. The collective agreement to progress a WPS and Humanitarian Action Compact by the Generation Equality Forum core members and the institutions and countries they represent, and the Board and Catalytic Members who have taken the bold step to join us on this journey, is a reminder of our collective commitment to be accountable to women and girls for whom the Beijing Platform for Action, UNSCR 1325, and commitments such as the World Humanitarian Summit Grand Bargain are more than words on paper. I therefore also thank in advance the many other member states and stakeholders who we hope will join the Compact as signatories. Finally, a special thanks to the Compact Task Force team. I believe we continue to demonstrate the multi-stakeholder collaboration envisaged for the Generation Equality Forum. Let's move this further together. Binaka Shukriya.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for your words from Fiji. And now it gives me great pleasure to move towards our closing remarks. And today we have with us Honorable Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, who is the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of the Republic of Namibia, to provide the closing remarks to this wonderful session. As a reminder, Namibia was President of the UN Security Council when UN Security Council Resolution 1325 was adopted. What a historic moment to have you with us today. On the anniversary of Resolution 1325, Namibia is scheduled to launch its International Women's Peace Center, a center of excellence focused on mediation, inclusive peacemaking, and conflict prevention in Namibia, Southern Africa, and the world. Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, you have the floor. We look forward to your comments.
Thank you very much, our moderator. And I recognize all participating in this meeting. on the Mobilizing Action for Compact, the Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action Compact. Namibia is very proud to be part of this compact, and we are looking forward to engage with all of you on the future of women, peace and security, and humanitarian action. Namibia hopes also to use her role in the organizations where we are members, with particular reference to SADC, as well as to the AU, in order to enhance the support for the compact. As you have rightly said, moderator, Namibia initiated the discussions that led to the adoption of the resolution, and equally important, we chaired the Security Council during the month of October when this resolution was adopted. And the same energy and which we had at the inception of the discussion and at the time the resolution was adopted, it's still the same that Namibia is having. And we will continue to work with the international community in order to ensure that the intended goal of Resolution 1325 and all relevant resolutions that followed are implemented. That is to make sure that women of the world should not be seen just as victims when there's conflict, but they must be recognized as also a solution. That's why they must be involved in all the process of peacemaking, peace resolution, as well as reconstructing, in order for us to ensure that there is sustainable peace. Generation Equality Forum is very important, as we know that the young and the old, they both have a role to play. The opportunities for the compact are many, particularly in the action side. The compact can breathe some fresh air into the women peace agenda, including by engaging member states that have not always prioritized the agenda to prioritize it. And particularly that we are talking about women peace agenda and humanitarian action. I believe the lessons from COVID is also something to go by, because we know that the impact of COVID now has a serious threat to the peace. Many people have lost their jobs, many enterprises have to close, and there is a lot of unhappiness. And of course, the isolation due to lockdowns might also have an impact in the mental health of the people that's threatening the peace. Therefore, combining women, peace and security and humanitarian is very appropriate, because at the time of disaster and the aftermath of disaster, peace is also threatened. The potential barriers could be political will. We need to ensure that there is political will and the willingness to take certain risks. For Namibia, you might all know that our ruling party has taken a bold decision whereby we have incorporated in our constitution that every structure of the party, it must be 50-50 gender balance or representation. And that has led to the current National Assembly of Namibia having 47% of women representation. Again, from the time we have been participating in the UN Peace process, our contingent, both women and men, have been participating, and we will continue to encourage that. However, we must make it very clear that we have not yet reached where we want to be. Women still continue to be underrepresented in our security sector as much as they are recognized. We should therefore develop strategies to promote women participation in decision-making, including management with national electoral system and political parties, to provide an equal play field for women candidates. There's also a need to support leadership development for women and girls so that we assist them in cultivating their political potential and professional skills. Finally, I want to confirm that yes, as we are marking the 20th anniversary of Resolution 1325, on the 31st October, Namibia will launch the International Women Peace Center, where we feel this center will be used to contribute to the empowerment of women in order for them to play a meaningful role in the peace process. The center will also be used to close fertilization of ideas, because we are looking forward to work with all of you colleagues, with your institutions, with similar aims and objectives, and also to exchange in terms of skills and technology to be used. The Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action should be positioned to promote all these aspects of women and peace. Some of you, we have invited you to participate in our launch. We are going to do it virtual because of we are just recovering from the COVID-19, but we are happy to say we'll be joined by the African Youth Envoy as we are talking about generational equality, and we strongly believe young people have a role to play. Count on Namibia to advocate for the compact. Count on Namibia on the advancement of women, young people, to ensure that there is peace in our lifetime. I thank you very much.
And we thank you so much, Honorable Nandi Detwa, for your words, for your commitment all of these years, for the catalytic role of Namibia on Security Council Resolution 1325. Thank you for highlighting this opportunity to, as you said, breathe fresh air to the Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian agenda. And congratulations indeed on the upcoming launch of the International Women's Peace Center and the ways in which it stands poised to be that center to cross-fertilize ideas, tools, and indeed drive forward inclusive peacemaking. We are grateful for your participation today to close this event. And so indeed, everyone, that brings us to the close of our event today. We've heard the enthusiasm and the commitment to the compact from both its board and its cadre of catalytic members. UN Women, on behalf of the Generation Equality Forum and its core group, would like to thank all of our speakers today for helping us kick off the compact process in true dynamic style. We would particularly like to thank the members of the task force who have dedicated so much time and achieved so much in a relatively short space of time to get us to this point of departure. But the hard work really begins now to define and to design the parameters of the compact before its official launch at the Generation Equality Forum in Paris, planned for June of this next year, 2021. We hope that you are as excited as we all are. We welcome everyone's engagement, everyone's support in this journey to ensure that the Compact on Women, Peace, Security, and Humanitarian Action delivers on its promise. With that, I thank you for your participation today, and we wish you all a very good day, good evening, and look forward to all that lies ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.